I think the movie relies on quite a few convenient photographs, specifically photographs, to help with some character revelations, right? So at one point, when she gets the call from the detective who's like, yeah, the ballistics are saying that this bullet that you gave to us would have been shot in 1920. She goes through a whole bunch of photos that she has for her book because she does a whole thing on the Jose character who's his, they have like the whole thing where like this random guy showed up once and was prophesizing about this thing when she's doing the whole thing about the Cassandra complex.
I know. She's doing the lecture.
And she's going through all of a sudden she just goes through all of her photos and she has a legit like fucking glossy of Bruce Willis like hanging outside of the
stretcher.
Yeah, like Jose's on the stretcher.
The
and
medics are coming in.
He's like hanging outside of like a foxhole or something, and she's got like a clear picture of him as if to confirm. So first of all, the fact that she pulled the bullet out of his leg.
Like, who's taking a picture at that moment?
You know what I'm saying?
No one is taking a picture.
It's such an unnecessary addition. It's one of those things that's stuck in there for like the dumbest possible person to say, oh, okay, do you not get that?
Right, or in case you don't believe me, you can't refute
if you don't
this.
remember, like, she doesn't have to have a picture of Bruce Willis from World War I.
He spoke perfect English. They couldn't tell quite where the dialect came from.
And then even worse than that, and this one really bothered me on this watch, was that when they're at the airport and she happens to bump into David Morse's character, like she literally bumps into him and recognizes him as the guy from her lecture. He's got the ponytail, he's got the coat, and he's walking by. And in that exact moment, she bumps into him, looks at him, and then as he's walking away, she looks down at a newspaper. There's like a USA Today. And in the sidebar of the USA Today, there's a picture. There's a picture of Christopher Plummer and him
and Brad Pitt's dad.
And she's able to immediately put together like he works for Goines' father, and he's the one. And it's like, oh God, really? Did we like? That's really fucking convenient that they just happen to have the sidebar picture of him right there on the fucking newsstand that you're standing at as you bump in. Like, it's just a little.
Well, even the scene where Bruce Willis is escaping from the mental institution and there's the one security guard that's reading the newspaper and it's like he sees Bruce Willis and you're waiting for it to be like, oh shit, you've been caught, you're going to go back. And he just looks at him and he says some stupid shit and he basically gets in the elevator, no problem. And I'm just kind of like, that's convenient that the security guard didn't say shit. Oh, and you were like, oh, maybe he just thought he was a doctor or something or thought of somebody like he was wearing a bathrobe and pajamas. I mean, he clearly wasn't a doctor. I mean, it was convenient. Oh, well, good. So now he can get away. I'm happy, but at the same time, it's like
it's a little bit.
You're
of a stretch.
expecting it to be like, hey, wait a minute, guards. You know?
Yeah. The other one I have, and this is something that I never really thought much of until this viewing of it. Really, I mean, this really kind of bothered me as I was thinking of it. So they established the whole thing with the teeth as the locator, as the honing device or the tracking device for the people in the future to be able to track who they've sent back and recall them, from what I understand, right, is that Bruce Willis disappears several times in this movie.
And then reemerges.
Where he's recalled back to the future. He's sent back to 1990. He's recalled back to 2035. He's sent to World War I by accident and then transmitted to 1996 and then recalled back to 2035. The more I think about it, the less I like that, because even with the tooth thing established as, okay, this is their tracking device on you, it doesn't make any sense that they would be able to physically bring him back from the past.
It's like the Matrix a little bit.
But you know what I'm saying is that, like, he has to have a machine. They have to put him in that crazy MRI machine for them to transmit him back in time, right? It's and again, you can go down this path with these time travel movies that you can start poking holes in everything, but the actual device, the actual thing that travels you from time, right? If he had a fucking DeLorean, I would get it. He traveled with the DeLorean's with him, he got back in the DeLorean and went back in time. For him to go through this machine and literally just be standing in water and they can just zap him back, it doesn't make any sense. It would be like, there would have to be a machine.
I just kept thinking of the Matrix, all that shit, so I didn't think too much about it. But like, because like the Matrix,
but you know what
is
I'm
like,
saying?
Like.
But even in the Matrix, they have to have that telephone. That's the whole thing. Get me an exit.
Right.
Get me an exit. They have to get to a telephone.
It's like at any time they can just take him out of it.
Because here's the thing. Explain to me how you take him in 2035, you put him in this MRI machine and you zap him back accidentally into World War One. Now he's in World War One. How do you transmit him from 1917 from 1917 to 1996 without a machine? You can just, because then at that point, why does he ever have to get in that machine again? If it's just something in his teeth, can't you just be like, boom, now you're here, now you're there, now you're in 1945, now you're in 1922. If it's just in his teeth, there's not an actual machine he has to go through. It negates the whole point of having a fucking time machine.
Yeah.
Like the rules are, if you don't have a time machine, that's always one of the big problems in time travel movies, is that if they don't have the machine, they can't get back. I went from 2035 to 1990 and I don't have a machine, so I'm stuck here. I can't get back. So that one bothered me. It's not something that ever really bothered me in the past, but watching it this time, I'm like, that's kind of a real cheat to just be able to zap him around wherever the plot needs him to be without him having the machine.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, no, you're right.
Is that too much of a nitpick?
No, because I guess it's not really always clear how
What's
he's
the
able
portal?
to.
What's the way that he gets there other than it's in his teeth? That's again, this is the type of stuff that
It can't be nitpicky if we can't debunk it.
And it's also one of those things where, like, again, these are things that they're not prevalent enough to fuck the movie up. The movie is, you're going with the story because you're enjoying the story so much that these things don't completely derail it. But that's one of those things that just watching it this time for some reason really got under my skin. I'm like, I don't buy that they can just zap him back. That doesn't make any sense.